One demon, 1,000 soldiers, and not a single one could land a hit. He reigned as a god of slaughter, until his own power dragged him to hell. But now, he's back, trapped in a body too weak to even hold chopsticks. And if you think he wants peace, you're dead wrong. Every night, he steals something more than just their hearts. His other name is King of the Brothel. They say one night with him, and you're reborn. Let's start the story. Under the moonlight, a group of troops advanced toward the celestial demon, who was flying in the sky. Is blood and fear all that you want? He asked. The army attacked. Well, if that's what they want, then that's what they'll get, he said. Suddenly, everyone's bodies started exploding, and the sky turned red. Blood rained down. They're way too weak, he scoffed, as the remaining survivors hesitated to even draw their swords. He started preparing another attack. The soldiers, deciding to strike back, rushed toward him. Today, you're going to learn the power of demonic arts, the demon exclaimed. The ground began to shake. A giant hand rose from the earth, reaching for the army. They tried to flee, but were crushed and dragged away. As they died, they wondered if something like this was even possible. How could so many people together fail to defeat a single person? The hand closed in the sky, and once again, it rained blood. The demon smiled. Where are the next challengers? He asked. But the battlefield, now covered in corpses, was silent. Suddenly, he felt something and clutched his chest. He started coughing up blood as a black mist approached him. This was the price for using the demonic art to this extent. He was paying for the absolute power he had after consuming countless souls. He believed that one day he'd overcome this curse, that no one had ever broken. Arrogance, apparently, had gotten the better of him. From the middle of the darkness, a bunch of purple eyes stared at him. He looked down. Chains rose up from the ground and flew toward him. He seemed to be floating over a kind of void. His legs, arms, and neck were bound. Is someone trying to drag me to hell? He asked. He screamed, a scream that shattered the curse. I won't be forced to do this. Suddenly, a light shone in front of him, and his body started to disintegrate. That's when he realized the demonic art he used his entire life was truly inescapable. If I had a chance in another life, I'd follow a different path, he thought. I want a peaceful, quiet life. But I can guarantee he doesn't want a peaceful life. Not all. Somewhere with classic Japanese-style scenery, a boy stood in front of a lake. That's when the maid, So-So, appeared. Please eat before it gets cold, she said. The boy raised his hand and slashed at her, as if he wanted to slice her neck with power. That's Byok Tae-san, our reincarnated celestial demon. The girl was still alive, of course, because he had no power. The jerk was just testing. Yeah, if he had any power, she'd already be dead. She looked at him with a strange expression. Lately, you've been acting strange, she said. She sent him to his room right away, while he just kept staring at his own hand, confused. He can't believe he wasn't able to cut a neck, and that he reincarnated into such a trash body. When he looks into the water, he says he hates that reflection of a face that looks like a girl's. A little later, during lunch, he was struggling just to hold the chopsticks. While repeating to himself that this body is worse than trash, he tells himself to calm down, and that soon he'll start getting better. She heard about an extremely skilled doctor who's coming this time, but he wants to know what some doctor, whose man doesn't even know, could possibly do. She tells him to be a little more positive, that things will start working out soon. But it's true, man. It's already been 10 days since he reincarnated into this stinking body. He's the second son of the best merchant in the city, Wuhan. He gets up all bony. As soon as he puts his hand to his face, a bunch of people come to help, checking his blood pressure, offering water, and dressing him. His body was such trash that he literally couldn't even eat on his own. Not to mention that the demon hated how his face was too pretty. What a terrible problem. He finds it funny that someone who once stood at the top of the world is now struggling just to survive. For now, he's using every bit of energy he has just to keep breathing. And he knows the fastest way to recover would be by stealing people's soul energy. If he were still the demon he used to be, it would be as simple as killing and stealing. The problem is he's way too weak for that now. He sits down, thinking that he could die at any moment. But not even Wuhan wants that to happen, since he's been given a rare opportunity. That's because he had a realization about the demonic art right before dying. Now that he understands what the wrong path looks like, he can use that info to pursue something completely different. He then calls for So-So and says that today he's going out. She wants to know where he's planning to go, and says she can take him wherever he wants. The rascal says he wants to visit the courtesan's house, commonly known as a massage parlor or brothel. Soso was about to say, "Good to know," but then her expression changes, and she asks if she heard right. He finds it odd and wants to know why she's so confused. She just replies that if that's the case, it'd be better if guard Shion went with him instead of her. Still, she says she's never seen him acting like this. He tells her that if that's the case, she can go with him. But obviously, she just refuses and he walks off. A while later, she's putting a cloak on him, thinking that for the past few days, he's been acting really strange. And now, just like that, he says he wants to visit a brothel. "Where's the bodyguard?" Tae-sen asked. She replied, "Don't worry. He's been training to protect you, young master." Then, she added, "Don't be so hard on yourself." He wondered, "Why do you say that?" "Lately," she said, "it feels like you've given up on everything. You should try to cheer up, especially since the doctor is already at the house." Tae-san thought to himself, "Now that my power is like a normal person's, I can understand how people really feel. It's clear she cares about me, and that's not so bad." Suddenly, Tae-san looked toward the gate. "The guys arrived," he said. "Someone sneezed outside." She asked, "How did you notice?" Tae-san thought, "Of course, I'd notice someone with an aura like that." The gate opened, and Tae-san stared at the man. Cheon Kyungwon introduced himself. "It's been a while since the young master summoned me." Tae-san thought, staring at him. This guy is like a living blade. His energy is so strong. It's hard to believe he's just a bodyguard. Maybe my father's group isn't as normal as I thought. Later, they arrived at the grand battlefield, the House of Fragrant Roses. They got off the horse. At the entrance, Kyungwon said, "I'll wait here." Tae-san asked why. "We're outside. Why would you just stand around?" Kyungwon started to explain, but Tae-san cut him off. "Are you really confident you can protect me if anything happens?" Kyungwon didn't get a chance to answer. Tae-san was already walking ahead. "Hurry up and come have some fun," Tae-san said. "I can't do that," Kyungwon replied. Tae-san didn't care. "Can't have fun?" Or "Can't follow my orders?" With just one look, Kyungwon started to tremble. Tae-san walked closer. "It'd be great if you could both have fun and protect me. But if you don't want to enjoy the place, at least stay close." Cheon bowed his head. "I understand." The girls opened the doors, and Tae-san was greeted by all the workers. His face showed he was here to cause trouble. Some were playing music. A little later, they were all sitting around a table, talking. Tae-san asked, "Where's the bodyguard?" One of the girls answered, "He's right outside, keeping watch." Tae-san thought, he's definitely one of those by-the-book types. Hard to change his mind. One of the girls came over to serve alcohol. "My body isn't feeling well," Tae-san said. "So today, only you all will drink." Confused, the girls asked, "Then what did you come here for?" Tae-san replied, "First, I want to hear all the rumors going around about me." They're a bit confused. So, he explains he wants to know what people say when they talk about the second son of the city's merchant leader. He's going to ask each of them and wants honest answers. A while later, he finds out that everyone believes he's going to inherit 1,000 gold coins, a small mansion, and a few courtesan houses. But obviously, compared to his father's wealth, that's not much. Turns out the important share of the fortune is going to the other son, Tesu. He's Tezen. In other words, a slight difference. For him, just coming here was worth it because this is the kind of info he'd never get at home. No one would dare to say things like that around him. Suddenly, he gets up and says, "Enough chit-chat. It's time to get started." Unfortunately, it'd be hard for him to deal with all of them at once. So, today he'll choose just one. He gives a stare, and that one girl already knows she's been chosen. Next scene, he's in bed and she approaches. The girls outside are all gossiping, wondering if he'll come back another day and why he picked Ryan. She sits beside him, and he asks how long she's been working at this house. She says, 10 years. Man, she's experienced. No lack of talent there. He smiles back and says, if that's the case, then they can begin. Meanwhile, the other girls are all going down the stairs, saying they'll ask their friend later what happened. One of the workers is just quietly observing all this chatter when suddenly a loud moan echoes through the whole place. The sound served as a whole show for our boy. The other guys having fun, the guards, everybody in the house could hear the screaming. One of them even scratches his face and says, "Impressive sounds, huh?" One of the girls comments that apparently the soundproof barrier wasn't working. Inside the room, it was really loud, and the girl was gripping the bed sheets tight, but in reality, he was using a technique extracting something from the woman's head. Sometime later, he opens the room door, and Kyungwon asks if he's all right. He smiles and says he's feeling better than ever. Then he starts walking down the stairs as the girls all stare from behind. A while later, they call out to Ryong and want to know what happened. She was 100% alive. And not only that, they all start saying she looked even more beautiful. Her skin and hair were more radiant. Her eyelashes seemed longer. They were all confused about what happened. Had the guy given her some kind of elixir or something? She says that's not quite it. She doesn't remember what happened, but her body feels incredibly light, like she's been reborn. What exactly did that rascal do to leave her feeling like that? Meanwhile, back at the house where So-So lives, she's doing laundry. She wonders if the boy passed out at the courtesan house. Suddenly, the gate opens. She sees it's him, 100% alive and well. She runs up, asking if he really went to see a courtesan and came back all in one piece. He doesn't answer. He just tells her to ask Kyungwon. The guy's standing there all awkward. It's like he doesn't really want to explain anything, but she already noticed. The boy seemed just fine. A while later, back in his room, there he was. He was concentrating the energy he absorbed from her, even with all the power he took in. He only managed to restore a small part of his body. The truth is, what he took from her wasn't really life energy or anything like that. In his past life, every time he absorbed energy, he killed people, but that caused side effects. So instead of absorbing death-filled negative energy, he was now purifying the person's thoughts, soul, and body. Then he was absorbing that energy in a sort of pure state. That was the realization he apparently had at the end of his life when he started disintegrating. He finally understood why everything had gone wrong. That's exactly why he went to the courtesan house, because those women for sure had been through a lot in life. So he already knew they'd have plenty inside to purify. But still, the biggest problem for him is this filthy body of his. Looks like he's going to have to visit that house a lot for a while. 10 days go by, and the girls, men and women alike, are all running through the halls in a frenzy. They're saying they can't believe how often he's been coming there, especially with that weak little body of his. All of them are eager to get a chance with the guy, since after the purification, you get a visual upgrade. Not to mention, he's the son of a rich family. So well, if you happen to fall for one of them, that'd be her golden ticket to a new life. Walking through the halls, all of them are staring, trying to seduce the rascal. While he's throwing compliments around, another girl's feeling left out. The owner of the house is pissed that this bastard's been showing up every single day. A mysterious voice asks if they should try strengthening the soundproofing. She replies that she's already tried all kinds, but it's useless. Every time that bastard comes in, it's nothing but screaming in that room. Even the other customers are starting to complain. But then she asks if the shadow ghost doesn't find it strange that someone who is practically on their deathbed is suddenly acting like this. And why is he coming specifically to this courtesan house when his family owns some of their own? Should we try to find out what these guys are plotting? The shadow asked. She replied, for now it's better not to. After all, they're the most powerful merchant group in the city. First, I need to figure out exactly what is going on inside those rooms. Meanwhile, our boys were still being chased down the hallway. Just seeing the guy made all the girls smile with dumb, love-struck faces. He looked around and told himself, today, I'm in the mood for more of a challenge. I wonder where she is. He turned to one of the attendants and said, bring out all the working girls. The man looked confused and replied, the most beautiful and popular ones are already right here. The ones who aren't present are the ones who don't draw much attention. But the rascal had already spotted one in the back. He walked through the crowd, saying, I decide who draws attention. The girls looked like they were fuming as they saw he was heading toward the ugliest of them all. He asked for the girl's name, the one surrounded by this dark aura. Diane, she replied. He said, it's nice to meet you. Today, I'm going to need your services. The other girls were all whispering, this guy sure has a unique taste. He kept walking through the hallways, noticing that she had an extremely depressive energy. Most likely, she was full of things to purify. Exactly the kind of person he needed. Now that he was recovering part of his body's health, it was time for a slightly harder challenge. He burst open the door, but paused for a moment. Then he smiled and said, just look at these bastards. He called for Kyungwon and asked for his sword. As soon as it was handed to him, he threw it up, and the blade stopped, hitting the ceiling over the bed. Blood dripped from the blade, and right then, they realized there was an assassin in the room. The protagonist just commented, the guy is still alive, which makes him mad at himself, right? Man, he caught the guy off guard and still couldn't finish him. Seeing the blood dripping in the room, Dan Young wasn't too thrilled about the situation. Our guy just told Kyungwon to handle it, because he had some business to take care of with the girl. He called out to Dan Young and told her to get ready because today, he was going to suck the soul out of her body. Oh, hasty dog, you only say that because you mean it literally, huh? If it were any other sense, I doubt you'd be talking all tough like that. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Yen, a girl standing up, said, "I heard that the second master of the house has been visiting courtesans every night." The girl sitting down told her what people have been calling him lately. "That's the mansion's guard, Yu Sioyan." And she said, "He's now being called the king of the house of framed roses, or even a man of unmatched potency." The girl, standing, slams her hand on the table. She demands to be taken there right now. She has to meet him. Her name is Yun Heirin. She's the fiancée of our boy. So yeah, this dude's been visiting the ladies for 10 days straight with a fiancée. Yeah, he's a real madman. Heirin says she's going right now to find him. Meanwhile, someone's arriving to tell our protagonist that he needs to return home. But the main thing he wants to know is what Kyungwon did with the assassin. Kyungwon, a bit startled, says he left the guy in prison. Tae-sen nods. He says he did a good job and that it's time to go back. But the servant is still wondering if this is even the same master he once knew. Not only has his energy changed, but now he suddenly has enough skill to kill an assassin like that. It's almost like he's become a completely different person. Sometime later, he's arriving back home, a bit more upbeat. Finally, his body was starting to recover. Of course, he's still far from where he once was, but he's also no longer someone you'd call trash. Feeling proud over such a small victory made him realize how much he's changed. But then, he suddenly stops and wonders, who are these two in front of me? And why is the one on the left staring at me like that? One of them steps forward and asks if it's true he's been spending every night at the courtesan house. The protagonist, however, has no idea who this crazy girl is. Heirin asks if he's dissatisfied with their engagement, if this is some plan to push her away. Only then does Tae-san realize, dude's engaged. She says that even if he's doing this on purpose, she's never going to give up on him, getting all clingy already. And she just asks that he doesn't give up on her either. Our boy obviously is confused. He has no idea who this crazy girl is. So what is she even saying? But honestly, and in his own way, he answers that he didn't do this with those intentions. And the moment he says he won't give up on her, a little smile pops up on her face. She's all emotional now, saying her feelings are finally being understood. But before he can say anything else, she's already walking off, saying she's leaving. And while she's right there clinging to him, he's thinking to himself, this girl actually got me stuck for a second. So far, she's the most powerful enemy he's ever met. And then he notices that his servant was already walking up ahead and sticking real close. Wow, guys, what's going on here? A while later, So-So is giving our boy a bath fully clothed, asking if he ran into Miss Yun on his way back. He wants to know how she already knows that. She says she's got eyes and ears all over this place, but he's already sure. She must have been the one who ratted him out to those guys, right? Telling them he's been visiting the lady's house every single day. Suddenly, So-So asks if Kyungwon's doing all right, which leaves our boy confused. Why wouldn't he be okay? Then she explains his warrior has a crush on his wife's warrior. Man, that's too easy, huh? Our protagonist has a servant. He already has a wife. And now this servant likes his wife's servant. What the heck? It's all perfectly balanced. 1 + 1 is 2. Or in this case, 2 + 2 is 4. And now that all makes sense. Why? As soon as he passed by his wife, Kyungwon was already up ahead, walking fast. Honestly, it's just weird seeing relationships where there's respect without fear, man. Because in the life he lived before, that separation didn't exist. If you wanted respect, people had to be afraid of you. But he's not hating this, which makes him wonder if his soul is being influenced by the body he's in now. Sometime later, inside the prison, Kyungwon says he disabled the guy's movements using pressure points. Tae-san just thanks him and tells him to open the cell. When he walks in, he observes the guy and smiles. His body was full of dark energy, which was obvious for an assassin. And for our boy, who loves some evil energy, this was basically a feast. He tells Ken to stay outside, but the guy seems to hesitate. He says it's too dangerous and asks what Tae-san's planning to do when they're alone. But Tae-san, cool as ever, just asks how he's going to help anyway. I mean, he didn't even notice that the assassin was on the bed that night. Kyungwon gets a little embarrassed and tries to explain himself. But man, Tae-san just says, I'm not repeating myself. That's when the boy goes cold and says, understood. He closes the cell and waits outside. Once again, he couldn't believe that the young master he always knew was now giving off pressure like that. For a second, it felt like he was standing face to face with a martial arts master. Suddenly, screaming breaks out from inside the cell, and Kyungwon draws his sword. But he quickly realizes it's not the young master's voice. It's the criminal screaming. What he really wants to know is what the heck is going on in there. Obviously, Tae-san was extracting the man's soul energy. And seeing just how corrupted that energy was, he realized this guy was way more dangerous than he expected. Suddenly, though, he realizes the soul was too corrupted for him. He has to cancel the transfer and wonders if it was just too much for him to handle to purify properly. Obviously, the process has to go until only clean energy is left. But in this guy's case, the soul was so tainted that it would have ended up affecting Taeson's own soul. So he had to back off. Looks like this guy is way too dangerous to handle right now. So, for now, he'll have to stick to resolving things through the courtesan. Meanwhile, at the House of Fragrant Roses, the madam is biting her nails, trying to figure out what's going on. It had been 2 days since her shadow assassin was captured by Taeson, but so far, he hadn't shown up again. A servant stood nearby, unsure what to say. Suddenly, someone bursts in and calls for the madam, saying she needs to come right now. Just then, the shadow ghost enters, but the man says something's off about him. The madam asks, why is he all twisted up and trembling like that? She immediately orders them to strike the pressure points to release him, whatever is wrong with him. A man obeys and hits a point on the back of his neck. But then, the man's body starts to fall apart. Before either of them can understand what's happening, he collapses like a puddle of jelly, only his skeleton left behind. Right then and there, she's sure this is the work of the merchant group, the one tied to Taeson's family. She asks, where is Danyong? The man responds that they were planning to send Danyong to the master of the Crimson Dragon clan. But the madam says they won't be doing that anymore. Instead, they're going to send Danyong to Master Taeson, not that other guy. The servant hesitates, saying, that's insane. Obviously, the Dragon Master will come after them once he finds out. A vicious man like that, if he hears about this, would start destroying everything in sight. Even so, the madam simply says to obey and cancel her scheduled visit. The House of Fragrant Roses would be sending a new gift to young Taeson. Some time passes, and a strange rumor starts spreading in the brothel. The girls say that if you spend a night with him, you wake up more beautiful than ever, almost like you've been reborn. On top of that, it seems like you become addicted and just want to be near the boy. Some of them were even calling him a divine being who crossed time itself, and those rumors were spreading like wildfire. The madam always thought it was just an exaggerated rumor going around among the hardworking girls. But now, here was Danyong, right in front of her, saying she wanted to serve the boy. The madam laughs, wanting to know why. Out of nowhere, she wants to drop everything and go be with Taeson. Looks like she fell in love with him, but that would only be possible if he paid off all her debts. Danyong says he didn't mention anything like that it's just her intention. Suddenly, the madam's expression changes. She says she has no idea what kind of conversation the two of them had. But Danyong is nothing more than property of this house and will stay here until every last debt is paid. She is to obey and prepare to meet the Crimson Clan's master. Now, I got a little confused. She went through all that. But in the next scene, there's Danyong standing outside Taeson's house. Looks like this was before that talk. She must have made her decision after that and changed the madam's mind. So now Danyong is there because, obviously, she was sent by the madam after she changed the plan. Her problem, though, is that she's feeling all insecure. Not sure if the boy is going to accept her. What if he thinks she's too dirty? Even with all that risk, she wanted to see him again. Girl, this boy's been going to the brothel for 30 days straight. If there's one thing he doesn't care about, it's that. There he is in his room, as usual, training his body to get stronger when someone appears on the other side and says to the young master that he has a visitor. Of course, it's Danyong, and he's a bit confused why she's there. But right away, she places her hand over her chest and bows deeply to Master Taeson. She says she wants to serve him for the rest of her life and apologizes for showing up so suddenly. All she wants is to stay by his side. Only now does our boy realize when he purifies someone's soul, their appearance actually improves. And the first thing he says is to ask Soso where she sleeps. She tells him there's a servant house nearby. He tells her to find another place and that she and Danyong should start living closer to him. Poor Soso is stunned. He didn't even say he accepted the girl. He's already giving orders. Before she can even react, he's already walking off, telling her to take care of the girl. But his servant girl starts thinking that girl is way too pretty for work like this. And once again, she wonders why her young master has changed so much lately. After spending a night with every girl in the House of Fragrant Roses, now he's visiting the House of Fallen Flowers. Since he's looking for the most broken, messed up girls full of baggage. The name alone was already a promising sign for him. He was eager for the kind of corrupted energy he could absorb from that place. But as he's approaching, someone suddenly tells him to stop and look over there. Kyungwon shoots a glare to the side, and the leader of the Crimson Dragons introduces himself, wanting to know if he's the one who stole the Dandanyang. The merchants nearby all seem to know. Whenever this guy shows up, there's going to be trouble. Our boy turns to Kyungwon and asks, "Who's this idiot?" That's when he explains, "Yeah, that's the master of the Crimson Dragon sect, an unorthodox group that had settled nearby." Tae-san just replies, "That unorthodox group is just a fancy way of saying they're a bunch of thugs. How could such lowly people have the audacity to be given such a grand name?" He literally says to ignore those idiots and just walks off like he doesn't care. Obviously, that doesn't sit well with the guys. They ask, is he really going to ignore them like that? And then they tell him, "Stop right there, little gigolo." Now that Tae-san didn't like, but to be fair, it was kind of an accurate nickname, wasn't it? I've seen people roasted way harder for way less. Still, the celestial demon mutters to himself how much he already hates this pretty face of his with every ounce of his soul. And now, this damn weirdo has the nerve to call him a gigolo. The guy starts laughing, mouth wide open, saying the little boy seems scared now. But man, Tae-san is a man of few words. He takes one step forward and says, "I'll leave the rest to those who serve me." Kyungwon immediately understands and draws his sword. Obviously, the other guy's underlings react too. That when the Crimson guy says, "It's ridiculous to hire bodyguards just to act tough. Today, I'll teach them what real courage looks like. And if the kid wants to get out alive, he just has to hand over Danyang." But Tae-san replies, "That's never going to happen, and you talk too much. What, do you fight with your mouth too?" And bam, in the next second, the guy lunges forward, saying, "Today the kid's going straight to hell." Kyungwon had already taken down his two opponents. And when he sees the guy charging, he shouts for Tae-san to get out of the way. But our boy, Cool, is in demon mode, activated, just makes a tiny movement with his hand and lands one clean hit right on the guy's chin. Unfortunately, something seems to go wrong with Tae-san's wrist. Even a simple attack like that was still too much for his body to handle. But the Crimson little boss goes down, crashing to the ground like a sack of trash. Kyungwon is concerned, but Tae-san just wants to know, are the other two dead yet? A bit embarrassed, the sermon says, "No, they're just knocked out." Tae-san says, "You really are too weak," then tells him to finish them off and follow him. He pauses for a second and adds, "If anyone asks who killed that guy, lie. Don't say it was me." Poor Kyungwon stands there frozen, just nodding and saying, "All right, understood." But he's confused. How the heck did Tae-san kill the leader of the Crimson Dragons just like that with no weapon? Now it was clear what he did to that assassin wasn't just some coincidence. The problem is, it's obvious now that he's not the same person as before. The next morning, our cheeky boy wakes up right next to Danyang. Man, I'm starting to think this soul extraction thing is just a front. The kid's clearly enjoying himself. I didn't see him extract any corruption out of her. It looked like he did something a little more corrupt instead. Right now, he's mad at himself for almost breaking his wrist just to take out that useless guy yesterday. He knows he still has a long way to go, but no way is he going to accept being called a gigolo. Suddenly, he wants to know why Heron's bodyguard is there. Seo-yeon looks at him and says, "So, you finally showed up." As usual, our boy skips the small talk and wants to know why she's here. He's sure it's not for tea. But before answering, Seo-yeon asks if that courtesan who served him was one of the girls from the house he's been visiting daily. Short and blunt, he simply asks, "What's the problem?" She notices his cloak's half open and asks if he just came back from the brothel. Completely honest and unfazed, he replies, "Yeah." The poor girl seems to lose hope right then and there. She then says, "Your engagement is going to have to be canceled." Obviously, our boy isn't really caring about any of this much, but she explains that it looks like someone sent a marriage proposal for Yun Heron. It came directly from the Jangli clan and the Morm Alliance. And Janglei, isn't that the guy from Genshin Impact? What's he doing here? Trying to steal our boy's wife. Because of that, Heron is kind of being forced to cancel the engagement, but she's completely against the idea. The problem is that rumors are spreading. Tae-san understands that it's hard for her to refuse when everyone knows he's been out there in the brothel with all the girls, one per night or more. So, he asks if she came here to warn him to be careful with the Janglei. After all, these guys might try something against him. Seo-yeon explains that, yes, Heron asked her to protect him. When she starts to explain about those people, he just calls them a bunch of filthy bastards. Apparently, they're important because she tells him not to say stuff like that so openly. But man, this Jean Lee clan seems to be the same one that abandoned him back when he was the celestial demon. So yeah, those bastards have been messing up the world for a long time. Seoyin stands up, saying it's interesting that she came to defend him, but he's more than curious to see what those guys are actually capable of. Sometime later, under the moonlight, 3 people are walking through the forest. Our boy has a little excited smile. That's because his body has been evolving more and more. But on the other side, Seoyin is always glaring at him, full of anger. He turns to her and says that if she doesn't want to follow him, she doesn't have to. But she lowers her head and says, it's not like that. This is the least she can do for him. Fine then. He thought to himself, anyone watching this would think I actually want her around or something. Suddenly, he stopped. What's wrong? Kyungwon asked. He just asked, how many of them are out there? The servant was a little confused, but when he looked up and behind them, he saw a bunch of assassins up in the trees. Tayson spotted 3. No, actually, there's another one hidden, he said. So that makes 4. The assassins dropped down from the trees. One of them said, it's not worth hiding anymore since we've been discovered. The one in the back with white hair said, it's best for the 3 of you not to resist and just come with us. Taesan was pissed. These damn thugs are once again acting like they're respectable people. As always, he completely ignored the guy. He spoke to his servant. Try judging the strength difference between him and the white-haired guy. Kyungwon took a look. He could see some energy being emitted and a faint smell of blood. From those details, it was clear this wasn't an ordinary assassin. He told Taesan, the guy is strong, but I believe I could defeat him pretty easily. That's because I'm about 3 levels above him. Clearly, humility was not this dude's strong point. Everyone who showed up got roasted and ignored. Taesan then asked, why are you still standing there? It's time to check if your assessment was correct. Kyungwon just observed. He took 1 step forward and walked right between the bandits, who didn't even react. He walked past, all stylish, leaving his aura behind. The leader, hand on his hip, didn't look very impressed. He started drawing his katana. The guy really does have impressive energy, he said, but it's not going to be that easy. In the blink of an eye, Kyungwon almost took a slash to the face, and after dodging the first strike, the guy was already going for another from above. Kyungwon managed to draw his katana just in time and block the hit. That's when the real back and forth started. Strike to the head. The guy defended left and right back and forth. The enemy activated a red aura, but was clearly surprised. Kyungwon was way more skilled than he expected. He gripped his sword tightly, thinking this definitely isn't just some random merchant's bodyguard. He jumped in to strike Kyungwon, but Seoyin told him to be careful. We should help him, she said. But Taesan was calm. This will all be over with a single strike. Before she could even ask why, bam, there was. Kyungwon had obviously already finished the fool. Seoyin, however, is stunned. How did Kyungwon defeat someone that advanced so easily? And from behind her, Taesan says, once again, Hyung has disappointed me. He only cut off an arm. He really has too soft a heart. The girl obviously looks to the side, thinking this guy's out of his mind. Still, she wants to know, why does Kyungwon suddenly seem to be getting stronger like that? He tells her, stop just standing there and go take care of the rest. I have some questions to ask, so they weren't supposed to kill them too brutally. Their meridians and body points are all copied, and they collapse to the ground, all twisted up. The problem is, one of them had disappeared. Suddenly, someone yells, Taesan dodge. When she looks to the side, there's a blade nearly slicing Taesan's neck. But before she can do anything, Kyungwon jumps in and smashes the guy's head into the ground. Taesan, though, doesn't look too happy about it. That's because, in order to save him, Kyungwon let that other one-armed assassin escape. Seriously, this damn servant is way too soft. Kyungwon apologizes, of course, for having let the assassin escape from right in front of them. Taesan thinks that if he were still the celestial demon, a mistake like that would never be forgiven. But for some reason, this time, he wasn't even that mad. He just responds, whatever. That guy was weak as hell anyway, and tells him to gather the 3 captives. A short while later, they're all lined up, and Taesan wants to know what to do with the amazing trio. He says that killing them is a pretty solid option and asks if anyone's against it. Obviously, the only ones against are the 3 on the ground begging for mercy. But Taesan just replies that since no one is sharing any info, he's going to start torturing them, which of course makes them start talking. They say they were sent by the Crimson Dragon sect, that it was an order from the vice leader, and anyone who refused would get beaten up, too. So they had no choice. Taesan thanks them and tells them to keep spilling info. Then, he orders the 3 idiots to be brought along as they head toward the brothel. Seoyin, however, is confused. What's going on? Was he really planning to make his usual nighttime visit after all that? But here we are again, man, at the House of Fallen Flowers. And the moaning is always echoing through all the halls. Outside the door are the two servants, red in the face and a bit confused. Kyungwon, poor guy. This is worse than torture. He can't even look to the side while all of this is going on. She asks, is this really okay? Are you sure he doesn't need to go in and check what's going on? He says, it's normal. He just has to endure until morning. Seoyeon starts to think something's off. That's when she realizes, yeah, this poor god probably has to go through this every single night. Even the three captured fools are there on the floor, listening to everything. Sometime later, the sun starts to rise, and our boy comes out of the room. For some reason, the three little bandits now have these sweet, innocent looks on their faces, kind of like NPCs acting shy. Kyungwon says that strangely, they ended up giving all the information. Looks like their plan really was to bring Tae-san to the Crimson Dragon sect to handle some kind of issue. And not even the three of them know the identity of the guy who ran off. That's because he only does special assignments for the boss. Tae-san is sure they're not lying. That guy wasn't just some random thug. He was just unlucky that Kyungwon isn't just some random bodyguard, because let's be honest, 99% of people would have died fighting him. The only thing he finds strange is that so far, it seems like the Jiangli clan isn't involved in any of this. Then he says they're going back home and to bring the three with him. Sometime later back home, he's opening a gate, placing the three guys inside, and saying he's going to apply some restrictions. Then he turns to Kyungwon and Seoyeon and tells them they better pay close attention. He was going to teach some martial arts, so they better learn quickly. The two of them are a bit confused since they didn't even know Tae-san was capable of teaching anything. But he simply tells them to learn this simple restriction technique. The secret was in how you connect energy and make it flow through the other person's body. He touches the guy's neck and warns them to be careful because if you don't do it right, the person could die. Then he tells the guy to pay attention because if he disobeys, he'll lose his vision. The poor guy was about to say something, but too late. Man is already on the ground, all twisted up. No idea what's happening. Our protagonist tells them to take advantage. There's a bunch of people there to test on, however much they want without worry. Kyungwon starts practicing, all while wondering where Tae-san learned this stuff. Seoyeon, on the other hand, is standing back, confused by the behavior of the two. That's when the protagonist suddenly changes expression and says he's going to teach how to make a guy's testicles explode. This is supposed to be the celestial demon who won a peaceful life, right? And just a few seconds later, the two poor guys are already hunched over, suffering hard. Man, did they really blow up those guys' sacks? That's just evil. Would have been easier to just kill them in the forest. While all this is happening, we get a look at the Oz Pavilion. A man approaches a table where a bearded guy is sitting. He seems to be reading something. He asks, is this the House of Fragrant Roses? The first place our boy visited. Do you recognize anything? That guy is the uncle of our protagonist, master of the Oz Pavilion, and his name is Byok Woohang. The one talking to him is Byok Sangil, his son. He says, soon enough, they'll expose a weakness. The father closes the scroll and says it doesn't matter if they recognize something or not. They just need to take advantage of this incident and squeeze as much profit from it as possible. That cursed perfume house was actually an intelligence organization disguised as a courtesan house. Obviously, they need to use this to bring that place into the Golden Wall Merchant Group, which is the merchant group involving our boy's whole family. The father asks, does the son have anything else to report? He explains, the Crimson Dragon sect seems to be splitting up ever since that guy's death. One of the factions is known as the Golden Celestial Alliance, and they better keep an eye on them because they're extremely dangerous. That was an alliance formed by some merchants from the city of Han. On the surface, they seem united and coexisting peacefully. But in reality, this alliance is against their group. Now the father is wondering, were those bastards scheming this time? The son replies, I'll keep an eye out. If I notice anything suspicious, I'll report it immediately. After a moment of silence, the old man decides to ask, what's this I'm hearing about Tae-san being called the King of the Knights? He wants to know, is the boy using some kind of special medicine, or what exactly is he taking to be so full of energy? The son replies, I haven't heard of any medicine. I think the kid's just in poor health from spending too much of it on the girls at the brothel. The way he's pouring all that energy into that place, considering his current health condition, is dangerous. He's only shortening his own lifespan. The uncle says, I understand. It's all fine. But the truth is, man, he's dying of envy of that bastard. Sometime later, back at our boy's mansion, So is asking, what happened with those bandits? Now, they're all obedient and downcast. He says they're not bandits. They're honest workers I brought to help her since she needed it. She replies, they clearly look a little suspicious. Tae-san just thinks to himself, if she didn't want help, then she shouldn't have asked for it in the first place. But the truth is, man, So is starting to think our boy is actually a kind person. He brought in these poor guys who clearly look like they're dying to start working. Tae-san then says, now we're going to get new names. From left to right, you'll be Black 1, Black 2, and Black 3. The guys are obviously confused, but with just one stare, they smack their foreheads on the floor and thank him. It's amazing to be Black 1, Black 2, and Black 3. He turns to So and tells her, it's decided now. Those are their names, and you can use them however you want. Then he asks, where's Kyungwon? I haven't seen him for a while. She scratches her chin and says, around this time of day, he's usually training. Our boy looks up at the sky. That guy lives an absurdly honest life for someone who's just a merchant's guard. I'm not sure if that was praise or just a rose. Poor guy. And there he is again, high in one, practicing his sword movements. He thinks to himself, it's unbelievable how Tae-san took that guy out with just one hit to the chin. He's never seen a technique like that. So how did he do something like that? Kyungwon has never regretted being part of the Sword of the Dragon organization. His job there with the merchants was simple. Whenever a crisis happened, it was his job to help. As long as he keeps that in check, he gets paid really well. But it's also true that the longer it takes him to get stronger, the more anxious he becomes. Lately, though, something has changed. Watching Tae-san from a distance, he knows that that's the person who can help him reach a new level. Suddenly, someone interrupts his thoughts, asking, how long do you plan to keep training? When he looks back, there's our boy already, saying, it's time for our daily visit to the courtesan house, as usual. The servant, though, says, I have something to ask. Tae-san turns, wanting to know what it is. Kyungwon just wants to know, are you no longer going to hide it? Tae-san is confused. What are you talking about? The guy says, I started to notice ever since you dealt with that assassin on the bed, then how you killed the leader of the Crimson guys, and now with these restriction techniques. After all that, I'm absolutely sure. The protagonist wonders, does this guy really already know who I am? I thought this idiot was just another strong, dumb type. But apparently I let my guard down too much. I couldn't let anyone find out that I'm the celestial demon, especially because I want to live a peaceful life. Yeah, peaceful. We're really seeing that peace in action, huh? His life is so peaceful. He's actually questioning whether he should kill this guy right now in case he's figured everything out. But then, suddenly, Kyungwon drops to his knees and asks for help. The protagonist is a little confused, but the guy says, I already know you're a genius, and now I want you to accept me as a disciple. Tae-san gets it now. The guy thinks he's some kind of martial arts master who's been hiding his skills. And then Kyungwon says he also wants to get stronger and that he seeks revenge because someone had destroyed his sect. But our philosopher, Tae-san, tells him not to let revenge be the motivator for his actions. Countless people have lost their sects, he says. You're just one of many and shouldn't think you're special because of that. Yikes. Poor guy. Went to share his trauma and got absolutely shut down. Our boy turns away, saying that people who use emotional things like that as motivation don't last long. That's because once those feelings fade, those people start to disappear too. That's why, he continues, I only accept someone who has the pure desire to become stronger. Nothing else. Kyungwon stands there all awkward, listening to everything. And our boy says that people who walk that path can take their revenge whenever they want. The poor guy just brings his hands together, bows his head, and says he understands. Sometime later, on the bridge on the way to visit the ladies once again, my dudes. Seoyeon is always following along, right? Not really liking all this fun. Walking ahead, our boy tells Kyungwon to stop being an idiot and start talking to her already. The fool tries to pretend he doesn't know what he's talking about, but our boy just tells him to quit acting dumb. He knows exactly what he means. Meanwhile, Seoyeon is wondering if he really does this every day. What did her young lady even see in a person like this? But suddenly, Tae-san stops and says the air has a strange scent of blood. No one else smells anything, right? And our boy says they're all idiots, only smelling with their noses. Sorry, 6 cents. I haven't unlocked smell 2.0 yet. Tae-san immediately senses that it's the same aura as the guy who got his arm cut off. And from the presences he's picking up, it's clearly more than one person. He turns and tells the two of them to go kill someone. And even before he finishes the sentence, Kyungwon is already gone. Seoyeon, on the other hand, still hasn't sensed anything and doesn't know what to do. But suddenly, she notices something approaching and grabs a small blade. Actually, no, it was our boy who grabbed the blade, and he tells her to stop standing there like an idiot, or she'll die. Poor thing still has no idea where the attack is coming from. He sort of points in a direction and tells her to go over there, saying she better give it her all, right? Then one of them charges in, and that white-haired guy shows up again, swinging his sword. But the guy's missing an arm, so even Seoyeon could defend herself easily. The guy realizes she's weaker than Kyungwon. She grits her teeth and rushes forward. Don't move from there. But she steps right into a trap he set. Everything explodes under her feet. Actually, it's a trap meant to freeze her. He takes that chance to charge straight toward our boy. She realizes he was trying to create an opening from the beginning. His goal? To kill his own master. And it looks like he's going to succeed. It even seems like he's managed to stab his blade right into Taesan's chest. Taesan smiles. It's moments like this where you can tell who's inexperienced. The guy's expression changes. Our boy caught the sword under his armpit, man. Before he can understand what's happening, he gets hit in the neck. He goes down, coughing up blood. Seoyeon still hasn't moved. She's in disbelief that he defeated that guy with one hit. Again, he tells her, stop standing still and actually be part of the fight. Poor thing, she apologizes. I'll do my best. He tells her, don't forget to bring that loser's body. We're going to put it to use. Kneeling to pick up the body, she can't believe Taesan beat him. The guy she would have struggled with, without even a chance to move. Now she's looking at him with different eyes. Huh? Now she's already saying she found someone who's going to change her life. Apparently, the fact that he sees a different girl every night in a motel doesn't seem to be a problem anymore. She's desperate to stay by his side and figure out what kind of technique he used. Walking under the moonlight, she gets hit with another scolding. He tells her, based on your performance today, you're way too weak to think about protecting me. From today on, you'll be training the Kyungwon. She hesitates, but in a way, it would be like learning from our boy. He wants her to get stronger. Maybe she could even become a disciple in the future. Suddenly, she changes her expression. Where's Kyungwon? She asks. He tells her, don't worry. He can take care of himself. But if you want, you could go find him. Obviously, he had defeated the other thug with ease. Or actually, it wasn't that easy. He's sitting there, all out of breath. That bastard was tougher than I expected, he says. Still, he managed to defeat the guy with a certain ease. He stops for a second, with a dumb look on his face. He's trying to scan the surroundings, but he doesn't sense any humans. In other words, where are the two he came with? The next day, they met at the Oswald Pavilion. The uncle, whatever relation that crazy guy was, spoke first. Taesan is going to the courtesan house to retrieve corpses. This went against the old man's plans, who wanted to absorb them himself, keeping things simple. With Taesan's actions, he had little choice. The messenger added, the Crimson Dragon Sect master has no choice but to hunt down Master Taesan. The uncle sighed. We can't let this slide. Something has to be done. Too many eyes are on him. It could affect the reputation of the Golden Wall merchant group. He walked to the window. It seems Taesan is recovering. His son replied, that's hard to believe. Every night, he exhausts his vitality, yet he's always at 100%. Could he be using some elixir? The uncle only said, maybe one day, we'll discover that legendary secret. Back at the house, the meal was set on the table. Black 1, Black 2, and Black 3 were present. The protagonist noted, you guys are being treated well. He asked, why aren't you eating? They hesitated. It's rude to eat at the same table as the master. He dismissed it. You're part of my group now. Start eating. From now on, we'll all eat together at every meal. Black 1, 2, and 3 replied, that is a great idea. Soso spoke up. The divine doctor will arrive today. Rumor has it he can fix any body, even one completely drained of vitality. The protagonist replied, I'll keep recovering just fine as long as I can keep going to the courtesan house every night. Everyone was a bit stunned at his openness. Soso seemed to understand. It's not possible you're recovering by doing that. It's not like you're stealing energy. He countered, you could say what I'm doing is something similar. She pressed, explain. He just said, let me know when the doctor arrives. She replied, he took accommodations elsewhere in the city. He wants to check out the area before coming over. At the mountain's peak, a man in a hat gazed down at the city. The name Golden Wall Merchants is pretty grand. Another handsome bastard just showed up. Whenever a story has a bad boy protagonist and a pretty guy appears, there are only two options. Either he's going to die, become a villain and get wrecked, or he's going to be the dumb friend who gets humiliated all the time. It's always like this. Who wants to place bets with me? Back to the lunch that was happening before. Our protagonist is eating peacefully and then mentions he heard people saying Black One had been helping out quite a bit lately. The poor guy gives a shy smile and says he didn't do anything special. He was just watching over the warehouse and giving a hand. He then adds that Black 2 and Black 3 are the most hardworking ones of all. And he's also noticed that lately the master is getting more and more handsome. He says he's not lying. He's not just trying to flatter him. He's noticing that the master looks taller, stronger, and his skin is smoother each day. Even though he's a man, he's starting to feel more and more in love. Our boy tells him to shut up and stop saying disgusting stuff. But Black One keeps praising him, saying it really is amazing how much the young master is growing. Black 2 and 3, on the other hand, are thinking this nutcase should really just shut up. But the protagonist knows that in a way the guy's noticing something that's actually true. He's not as pale as before, and he's been regaining his muscle, right? Because he just keeps absorbing the courtesan. But whatever the result of all this is, the only thing he knows is he can't stop accumulating souls. Sometime later, we see a bunch of people gathering at the entrance. They've arrived with the so-called Divine Doctor. A guy in a green robe greets him, saying it's an honor to meet him. That's Gamyusion, the guy in charge of the people who work in the Golden Gate Mansion, the one belonging to our boys' merchant group. And the Divine Doctor replies that this is just a simple matter of fate. He's eager to meet the patient and asks that he be brought in. The guy, just like us, is thinking, this brat look way too young to be the Divine Doctor. As they walk through the mansion, the doctor comments that this place is really impressive. Gamyusion explains that the owner of the Golden Gate Group poured a ton of money into building all this. It's one of the 3 largest pavilions in the whole region. Nearby, the Black 1, 2, and 3, I still don't know which is which, are working on the plants. The doctor glances over and asks who that woman is. Getting a little smitten, you sly guy. Gamyusion says she's the second servant of a young master of the mansion. Apparently, she's a woman who came from a well-known courtesan house in the province. She's one of the ones who came here asking to serve the boy. The doctor looks over and asks, did the other women go through something similar? He replies, yes, those other girls are also from courtesan houses, and after I visited them, they came over asking to work for him. Man, this doctor is getting peculiar now. He says, each of them has an extremely rare body constitution, and I want them for myself. Gamyusion thinks to himself, I never imagined the Divine Master would be a guy so interested in multiple women. A bit awkward, he says, as he understands what he means, especially since they're all very beautiful. But the doctor cuts him off and says, I'm referring strictly to their physical constitution. He asks, I'm not talking about physical appearance, right? Most likely, he means their bodies are pure, like smell. Someone in that state could learn anything they wanted. Gamyusion apologizes for misunderstanding, and the doctor says, it's fine. I just want to know if I can take them all as disciples. Gamyusion starts trembling a bit because, after all, they all belong to the young master. And the doctor says, if the guy agrees, it'll be a favor. He'll never forget. With that sly little smile, he's sure that, no matter how wonderful those girls are, only an idiot wouldn't take the chance to form a relationship with him. Yeah, fellas, looks like I called it. This guy's gonna pull a little villain act and end up getting hooped by our boy. The fool is completely confident, thinking the guy will accept, but face to face with our protagonist, he gets rejected immediately. The doctor asks him to think it over, saying it would be a big opportunity for the girls too. Tae-san, though, asks, why does someone who already has 10 disciples want 4 more? He was clearly a greedy man, more than Tae-san could tolerate. The doctor starts to sweat, feeling awkward, and says, the people who came with me aren't necessarily disciples. They're just helpers with the work. But Tae-san replies, it didn't look that way, considering how that crowd of old men was glued to him. They were either disciples or subordinates. Besides that, our boy is sure that the man in front of him is much older than he appears. Now makes sense, right? The bastard is hiding his true age. And after pausing for a moment, he says, an opportunity to learn what I can teach doesn't come easily. But Tae-san just wants to know, what exactly would my girls gain from learning one of your techniques? He slams the tea on the table and says, the problem here is that the doctor is trying to take something that belongs to me. Besides that, he knows full well the guy isn't actually interested in teaching the medical techniques. He knows what he really wants, is the materials they can provide. The doctor, a bit awkward, says it's impossible to use humans as materials. But deep down, he's thinking that the protagonist crossed a line. He said the boy in front of him had weak energy and a lousy body. Maybe I should just kill him here and now, he thinks. If I said the boy died in the middle of treatment, no one would probably care. But then, something comes flying toward him and hits right in the middle of his forehead. Boom! His hat is sliced. And Tae-san just asks, "Do I really look like an easy target to you?" He warns, "What you understand about martial arts is less than the bare minimum to even think about messing with me." Alright then. The doctor is shaking all over, completely stunned. He doesn't even understand what kind of bloodlust this is. It's like someone is screaming inside his head. He's losing his grip. Tae-san then says, "This is bothering me a bit. These are people who work for me, and it's going to be annoying if people like you keep showing up try to take them. After all I want is to live a peaceful life." "Sure, man, we believe you." The doctor, standing there like the rest of us, looking dumbfounded, thinking this guy clearly doesn't want anything peaceful in his life. But that fear he just felt. He's felt it once before. Then our boy says, "Actually, I do need someone to handle a few small problems." Oh man, I nailed it twice. First, I said the guy was going to play the little villain role. Second, that he'd end up turning into an ally. And it looks like that's what's happening. Next scene, Gamujian asks, "Are you really planning to work here now too?" And the doctor already says yes. "My life's great dream is now to work for Master Tae-san." Of course, Gamujian accepts on the spot, saying, "It's an unexpected decision, but incredible." He swears on the name of the Golden Wall merchants that he won't be disappointed living here. The doctor thanks him, but obviously the servants who came with him are all confused, not understanding why he's suddenly acting like this. The doctor's thinking that he lived a free life for a long time, but in the end, he ended up screwed in a place like this. Treating Tae-san shouldn't take more than a month or two. The problem is getting rid of him wouldn't be easy. After feeling that bloodlust, he's just relieved he didn't piss himself on the spot. Kyungwon asked our boy, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" He had placed restrictions on all the doctors, but the main one didn't want to accept. Tae-san says, "Not to worry. I had already personally placed a restriction on that guy. That's why he won't be able to do anything." Kyungwon then asks, "Why didn't you just do it to everyone, since you could?" Our boy gives the obvious answer, "I'm still really sick and don't have the energy to waste doing that. Plus, it's important to understand that those guys aren't normal doctors." Suddenly, the doctor appears right next to them. "My new job now is to take care of Master Tae-san's health at all times. So, of course, I'll always be staying close to him." Seoyeon jumps in with an honest question for the doctor. Is it really okay for someone so sick to be visiting the courtesan house every single day and night? Not only that, but he stays there all night until sunrise. The doctor is stunned. He didn't even expect that. Even he's shocked the boy stays the whole night. The kid's a prodigy. He then asks to check Tae-san's pulse, and Tae-san agrees, but warns him to be quick. The doctor says he wants to heal, but what he really wants is to analyze and see the weaknesses, see if there's a way to end this boy. But the moment he touched him, he felt something off. It was a constitution that made no sense at all. He asks, "Is the boy really a living person?" The expressions of his two subordinates immediately change. Tae-san asks, "Why are you questioning something like that just from checking my pulse?" The doctor explains, "I've never seen someone with a body constitution as bad as yours. The energy flow you have is so poor. It's basically the same as a dead person." Tae-san asks, "What do you do with someone who calls you a ghost like that?" Kyungwon suggests exploding the guy's balls. The doctor, however, says, "Don't misunderstand. All I'm trying to say is that you need to be treated immediately." Tae-san then asks, "Would you be willing to bet your own life on what you're saying?" The doctor replies, "Of course not. Hell no, I wouldn't bet my life." He smiles and says, "I have no idea how to treat something like this, but that's my job." This leaves the others confused. Where's all that confidence coming from if you don't have the slightest clue what to do? Still, he tells Tae-san, "I'm sure that at least my reading of the body isn't wrong." Tae-san just tells him to get lost if you're not going to bet your life and don't even know how to treat me. The doctor replies, "I can't back out now. My mission is to follow you and figure out what's going on." But inside, he's thinking this whole thing is way too strange. How is this guy even moving with a body like that? Then he asks Tae-san, "How did you hear about me and the divine Dr. Title?" Tae-san replies, "I have no idea who you even are, honestly." The doctor thought he was joking. "Are you from some cult or a part of a secret merchant family?" he asked. Suddenly, Tae-san stopped walking. He turned around. I don't know what cult you're talking about, he said. But apparently, it's not very secret if you have the guts to say it out loud. Then he walked off. If you keep talking this much, he told the doctor, you're not going to last long. Once again, the poor guy started trembling, feeling that same bloodlust. The other two men, they'd already learned that when you're with Tae-san, you don't talk too much. You just follow and stay quiet so you don't get wrecked. The doctor came to the same conclusion. For now, it was better if he stayed quiet. The next day, at the place where the Divine Doctors group was staying, he'd come to a few conclusions after watching Tae-san all night. While he was at the courtesan house, the screaming and moaning lasted all night. He realized, yeah, the boy is unstoppable. More than that, he noticed that the girls from that specific brothel were way purer than women from other places, and all the ones with that kind of purity were the ones who spent a night with Tae-san. He was now certain that at the very least, the boy had some kind of ability that transformed the physical state of people into something pure. And probably, he spent 6 hours using that technique. Man, this guy already figured out a lot, huh? Quick work, you sneaky brat. The doctor's current goal was to get closer to our boy and extract more information. Suddenly, So-So appeared and called for Divine Dr. Dubba. Apparently, his name was Dovit. The young master is looking for you, So-So said. He walked over, a bit hesitant, wondering what kind of problem it'd be this time. The hardest part for him in this place was that he still couldn't figure out how this guy thought. Back at the usual table, our boy asked, "Are you as skilled as people say, doctor?" A bit unsure, the doctor answered that even if it didn't look like it, he was proud to say he was one of the best in the region. "There are probably only 5 people in the whole world who dare say they're better than me," he stated. Obviously, Tae-san, humble as always, said that's still way too many people. Dubba said that no matter how good he got, he still couldn't compare to people like the Poison Demon and the Immortal of Healing. That's when Seoyin asked, "Do the people you're talking about also include the cultist demon?" To which he replied, "Yes, the demonic cult has someone who's more skilled than me. But nobody knows exactly who that person is. And it seems they've become even harder to find now, since they've tried to go into hiding." Tae-san wanted to know, what exactly is the demonic cult trying so hard to hide? That's the real problem. Everyone wants to know that. What they do know is that he's using some kind of illusion enchantment that separates him from this world. A power that can only be broken if you have the key. Tae-san recognized that technique as the Mystic Sky enchantment. It's only activated when the leader of the cult dies. And the key to undoing this power is the birth of a new leader. That's because you can't pass through the barrier unless you are the leader yourself. He remembered having killed all the candidates to become the celestial demon in his past life. So, unless a new one appears, they won't be able to leave that place. Back in the meeting, he said, "I'm not here to talk about that. I just want to know if the doctor can reattach his severed limb." The doctor gave a sly smile and said, "That would be easy. Obviously, it's never the same as someone who never lost their arm, but I can restore a destroyed limb as if it had been cleanly cut." Tae-san wanted to know which limbs and organs he could do that with, and the doctor replied, "Most limbs and most organs. He can save anyone as long as they weren't killed instantly." Tae-san said, "That's excellent news," and told him to keep an eye on the training of the other two. The doctor was a bit confused and said he didn't know anything about martial arts. "I spent my whole life studying medicine," he added. But Tae-san told the two of them that now they could train in the perfect way since they now have someone who can make sure they don't die instantly. They're allowed to cut off each other's limbs as long as the head stays on. Of course, the two servants immediately understood what he meant, and they were standing there trembling, asking for a clearer explanation. Tae-san told them, "The way to become stronger is to truly fight for your life. You'll evolve way faster than anyone else if you fight each other like you actually want to kill." The two of them were already shaking, which meant they'll have to slice off each other's limbs while the doctor reconnects them afterward. Tae-san told the doctor that his job is to make sure neither of them dies. Kyung-won said, "It would be a problem because if I get hurt during practice, it'll be harder to protect our boy." But Tae-san said, "Don't worry. I'm not leaving this place for a whole month starting today. That's the time they have to get strong enough to be able to protect me." The doctor realized there's no way out for him now and said, "They can fight as much as they want. As long as they don't die instantly, I can heal them. Besides that, I'm sure this training method will get results. Their abilities will improve tremendously." The doctor's confident this method will work because it started with the celestial demon from long ago. Boom! 1 month has passed already. And guess what? We're back at the courtesan house. In the middle of training, Kyung-won sees an opening. He goes to slash Seoyeon in the neck. She barely dodges, but still takes a small cut on the cheek. Now that she realizes he's going all in like this, she decides to go in for the kill, too. He hesitates for a second. She comes at him with a slash that scrapes under his chin. That's when someone claps and says the training is over for today. It's the doctor saying it's time to apply the healing cream. The two of them are standing there trembling. Clearly, this was way worse than fighting. Kyungwon says he doesn't need something like this. The injuries from today weren't even that serious. But Doobie replies that that's not true. You're covered in wounds all over your body. Even if it hurts a little, this is the most effective way to get you back to training as fast as possible. At that moment, Taesin opens the door. This healing medicine is really good. Everyone is startled to see that our boy has arrived. They wants to know what he's doing there. Taesan responds, I said 30 days ago I would come back after a month. Doobie asks if he's all right. Right away, Taesan stretches out his fist, causing the poor guy to flinch. But of course, our boy just tells him to check his pulse if he's that curious. The second he analyzes it, Doobie's expression changes. How did you manage to restore your body like that? What Taesan did was almost obvious. He used the energy he absorbed from the girls at the courtesan house to fix up his wrecked body a bit. The only issue is that in the process he realized the soul he is now is different from the one he had before. In the past, his energy was violent and destructive. Now it's actually more compact and durable. The problem is that it's extremely hard to control. On the other hand, once he masters it, he'll be capable of creating the perfect body. Back to the present, he tells the doctor to stop purposely making the cream more painful just to make them suffer. Clearly, he's been torturing the two without any real reason. Right then, Kyungwon realizes that all the pain he's been enduring was because of the damn doctor. We're going to have a little chat. All scared and off-kilter, Doobie tries to say that his subordinates went through a rough time to get that information. But Taesan just says he's living way too comfortable a life. The doctor, though, poor guy, is suffering. It's hard to train those two, keep applying ointments all the time, heal their wounds, and still do everything else. You need to be two people to handle so much. Taesan, are you suggesting you want to be split in half? He replies with a quick grimace. That joke's not funny. Every time he threatens him, he remembers something scary from his past. Taesan finds it strange and wonders if this guy used to belong to the Sacred Demon Clan. They were a group that existed all over to gather information. Each member disguised themselves in cities as bodyguards, merchants, and doctors. Doobie was probably one of those who lived as a doctor. That makes him wonder if Doobie knew about his old life. Doobie then says, it's strange you're so interested in the Jang Li clan. The daughter of the Yin Mansion must have been stunning. The king of the brothel is thinking, yeah, she really is beautiful. In a way, she even reminded me of someone from the past. Oh snap, I thought he was going to say something like, but I don't care about her. But nope, that was it. Dude's in love, huh? Doobie is asking, shouldn't we add a few more bodyguards since the Jin Li clan is pretty dangerous? But he just replies, you're a scared little kitty. Obviously, I wouldn't need anything like that. The Jang Li clan is going to be a piece of cake to deal with. Back when he was the celestial demon, most clans were losing to his sacred clan. Only the Jang Li clan ran away. He tried going after them to not let those bastards get away. But when they found them, they had already burned everything and vanished. Now he's eager to see what those bastards' lives are like today. At the Yin Mansion, an old man is standing face to face with him, eyes wide. Apparently, Dr. Doobie really is impressive. Your body seems to have improved a lot. That man is the master of the Yin Mansion and Heron's father. Taesan says, I'm still far from regaining the power I once had, but I'll get there eventually. Nothing suspicious about that line, right? Doesn't give off reincarnated vibes at all. Master Yang laughs and says, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. You've changed a lot. It's just a shame things have gotten so complicated this time. Seems like the Jin Li clan is really determined to go through with this. They're refusing to acknowledge my marriage to Huron. And on top of that, there are a lot of people on their side. And obviously, if you don't accept the humiliation, they'll probably target the Golden Gate merchant group. He replies, I'll try to settle it. He angrily says, those damn Jang Li never change. They're trying to use my marriage to steal both the merchant group and the Yin Mansion in the end. Next scene, we see Black 1, 2, and 3, the protagonist group. Just as Taesan was about to leave the house, a hand stopped him at the door. A 3-meter-tall lunatic loomed over him, asking, are you Byok Taesan? Then, this person introduces himself as Wong, the newest son of the Wong family. Immediately, Tayson knew who he was. Wong sneered, "I heard you have a reputation for poor performance in bed." Tayson raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? If there's one thing I'm known for, in a good way, it's definitely not that." "You way off." Wong pressed on. "So, Tayson, do you want to learn a lesson?" "Wait a minute. It's not Black 1, 2, and 3. It's Wong's group, ready for a fight." Wong, with that classic villainous face, asked, "How about a private chat?" Tayson inquired. "Just the two of us?" No one following. Suddenly, Kyungwon shouted, "You can't just ignore him like that." Wong laughed. Even his bodyguard is arrogant. He's asking for a beating using his boys. Tayson responded, "Thank you. Kyungwon's just finished his training. A duel would be perfect." It seems Tayson will go with Wong, leaving Kyungwon to handle the others. In other words, someone will die over there, and someone will die over here. Those poor guys are probably weaker than Black 1, 2, and 3. The Wong family men drew their swords, declaring, "We can fight, and if someone dies, no problem." Nearby, Dove found the situation interesting, noting those men were the elite of Jiangli. He's eager to see the outcome of the training, but he'll stay back. Fighting isn't really his thing. Elsewhere in the mansion, Wong stood by the lake. "This place is decent, isn't it?" he asked. Tayson simply said, "You're quite dedicated. You just arrived and already found a spot like this." Wong replied, "It's only natural. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time." Wong continued, "Tayson, you might not know it, but I'm extremely skilled at inflicting pain." Tayson, arms crossed, sighed, "I'm looking forward to seeing that. But before all that, I want to know if you really have any intention of marrying Heron." Wong responded, "Yes, she's pretty enough to catch my eye more than once. But that doesn't mean she's the right person to be my partner. Her ambitions were too big for someone from that family." He abruptly threw a knife. It clattered harmlessly against a tree. Wong looked bewildered. "Where's Tayson?" "Look where he is with his hand on his head. And right behind you, saying, 'It's time to find out how far those ambitions go.'" "Yeah, sucker. Now you found out that the guy who supposedly had a wrecked body isn't that wrecked after all, right?" And in a second, he's already screaming. The sound is echoing through the forest, scaring people far away. Right away, Kyungwon assured Tayson must be shut down, the poor guy. Strangely, the dude's servants don't even recognize their master's voice, saying that apparently Tayson is the one suffering. But I know, I'm telling them to stop messing around and just attack already. The poor guys raise their swords and say that since they're so eager, they'll help them go to the next life. But when the first one goes for a slash, Kyungwon dodges and kicks him right in the chin. Two others come in from the side, saying that his arrogance would end right there. But as soon as he looked back, bam, something smacked the sucker in the face. A sword chief rolled in, and Seoyin told him to come play with her too. Ah, sweethearts standing side by side, like the perfect duo. Both swearing they wouldn't let Tayson down and would show the results of their training. Meanwhile, our guy is stealing all the evil energy. I think from that sucker one, wanting to know where all that arrogance went. But the guy didn't need to worry. Tayson would only extract half his energy, since in this life, he doesn't want to kill anyone. Ah, he's got amnesia or something. Did he forget? He already killed plenty of people. Back at the mansion, obviously the sucker's servant is being shredded up and dropped on the ground like trash. A few seconds later, everyone was kissing the pavement. Seoyin says that for a moment she had her doubts, but they really did it. Kyungwon smiles and says it's thanks to the trust they have in the young master. She, however, finds it strange. It shouldn't be easy for them to defeat warriors from the Jiangli clan. So how did it happen? He says he has no idea. He just knows that if it weren't for Tayson, they'd be the ones on the ground right now. The truth is, before they came to this place, our guy had passed on all the information about how those guys fought. And obviously, it was like he knew every single detail about them. Even though at first he felt unsure during the fight, it became clear that it was extremely easy to predict everything they were going to do. And obviously, that was thanks to the info Tayson gave them. He'd be thinking that the guy is amazing while standing there confused, looking back. Sometime later, Doobie was there singing on the bridge when he looked back and saw Tayson arriving. Our boy wanted to know what he was doing there. He explained, right, that he preferred to stay out of the fight because he wouldn't have been any help. So, our boy wanted to know why those guys hadn't dealt with that trash yet. A bit awkward, Doobie said, "That isn't trash. Those are the elite warriors of Jiangli." But Tayson replied, "From the looks of it, those two still have a lot of training to do. When they get back, they'll be training twice a day." He can't stand people failing around him. Doobie let out a little smirk. Right, Sneaky? Looks like you're not the one doing the training if all you're doing is thanking them. Sometime later, around the table, Wong was there with the head of the house. Beside him was our dear Run, who was always blushing. She looked forward, saw Wong's face, and lowered her gaze. The father noticed that, glanced to the side, and saw that Wong looked kind of off. He lowered his cup and said, "I heard the two of you had a conversation today." Right away, Rin stood up and said, "I was surprised that Tae-san was okay." He, however, asked, "What would you have done if I wasn't?" Before she could answer, he just said, "Yes." They had a very interesting conversation. Something you could say touched their very souls. Wong replied, "Yes, it's true. It really did shake our souls." Tae-san, however, called out to him and said, "It's rude to talk without looking someone in the eye." The poor guy, all trembling, tried to muster some courage, but standing in front of him was just the captain. One stare from Tae-san, and he felt his whole spine get electrocuted and trembled in his seat. The guy merely threw up, stood up, slammed the table, and the food hit the floor. With that, Seo-yin helped her move away while the others looked confused. Our boy, though, was just smiling, mission accomplished. Sometime later, someone slams the table and asks, "What the hell is going on?" This is the patriarch of the Jiang Li clan. The man in front of him tells Master Cheon that it seems the bodyguards from that mansion were stronger than expected. They're starting an investigation to see if the Yin mansion helped them in any way. Cheon, who's the master, wants to know how Wong is doing in a moment like this. The guy says it looks like he locked himself in a room and refuses to come out at all. He's having some kind of problem with his martial arts, but they can't figure out why. It's almost as if part of his memories were ripped out. Cheon puts a hand to his forehead and says the bastard not only got defeated, but also turned into a complete idiot. He's sure it's impossible this is Tonnin's doing since that guy is super weak and was about to die. There must be someone else behind all of this, and things are getting weird. He tells him to find out who's involved in this situation, no matter what. The guy just nods and says, "I'll be taking my leave." While looking out the window, he says they're finally reviving this clan that was nearly wiped out. In a time like this, they can't afford humiliations like that. He swears, "I'll crush anyone who dares mess with the Jiang Li clan, even if it's the celestial demon." Back at the Yin mansion, a group walks through the door. Right away, Kyungwon gets a feeling that trouble's coming. He warns, "Trouble's coming." Our boy just wants to know, are they here for revenge? Kyungwon says, "I'm not sure, but it looked like there were some martial arts masters among them." Tae-san wants to know, "How are you so sure there was a master in the group?" Kyungwon explains, "There's an old man with a sword who clearly wasn't bothering to hide his presence." Our boy laughs and says, "They really never change. They love to show off and only ever learn after a good beating." He says it's time. Kyungwon thinks they're heading to face those guys, but Tae-san says, "No, I've got other things to take care of." Confused, his friend asks, "Where are we going?" The matters at the mansion aren't resolved yet. Tae-san says, "Don't worry. They've got plenty to deal with, thanks to the fool who peed himself. Meanwhile, just follow me." He goes ahead, saying, "Finally, things are starting to get interesting." By the end of the afternoon, they were arriving at the Blood Axe sect. Tae-san smiles, saying, "They're actually bigger than I expected." His friend wants to know, "What are you planning to do here?" This is one of the strongest unorthodox factions in the whole city. They do give money to the Jiang Li clan behind the scenes, but no one really knows why. Tae-san says, "I'm sure those guys don't like Jiang Li, so if they're giving them money, it's definitely not by choice." Kyungwon replies, "It's probably because they're not strong enough. That's something normal in this world." Tae-san answers, "It's not just that they're weak and not fighting back. They're paying those tributes because they know resisting is useless." He asks, "Do you know what happens to people like that?" Kyungwon glances over. Tae-san says, "All of them lose the will to live." At that, his friend flinches and remembers the old city burning. His father yelling at his servant, "Get the boy out of here and go as far away as possible." A young Kyungwon looks back and sees his father saying, "I hope at least he survives from the family." But that's when someone lands a hit on his back. He says, apparently one managed to escape. Looking back, he sees the Blood Phoenix demon and asks, "Why are you here?" Before the guy can answer, he's already on his knees, saying, "My family is innocent." He begs, "At the very least, spare my child." He grabs the demon's feet and pleads. But the Blood Phoenix demon says that one day, that son will come looking for him. He'll be seeking revenge for his father. So, in other words, the two of them were destined to meet again someday. And when that day comes, it'll be hard for him to accept that same plea again. With that, he kills the father. But apparently, he let Kyungwon escape. Now, he seems to understand what Tae-san said. Being weak is the greatest sin. He gets goosebumps and asks, "What are the weak supposed to do then?" Our guy smiles, puts his hand on the door, and says he'll give them strength. Obviously, as soon as the door opens, the guys inside are shouting that intruders are coming. But just moments later, the chief and his whole group are already wrecked. Tae-san approaches the leader, Chu Jawan, who's already screaming and begging for his life, saying they really made some serious mistakes. He's already banging his head on the floor, saying he'll obey anything Tae-san says. Tae-san just smiles and asks him to calm down, explaining that he's only there to teach something really interesting and wants to see how useful they'll be. Before the leader can even understand, he's told that in exchange for what he's going to learn, all of them will be killed if they ever pay another tribute to the Zhongli house. The leader's got tears in his eyes, saying that if they go pay Zhang Li, he'll die anyway. So nothing's changed. A few days later, over at the Zhongli mansion, someone's yelling so loud it scares away the birds, wanting to know why the Blood Axe doesn't want to pay tributes anymore. It's a servant informing the king, who slams the table, asking if those idiots think they'll just accept something like that. The guy, though, says something feels off. The people over there seem way too confident. The boss says they're probably just hiring some second-rate martial artists to help out, but they'll handle it. The elder says fine, then, and asks if they can send the soldier's corpse over to deal with them. The problem for the boss is that lately they've been having some money issues. They can't afford to lose the funds those guys were paying. So, he orders them to send a guy named Jang Sundra and the group of warriors. The guy says he's heading out to call them now, while the leader is fuming. 1 week a sucker comes back humiliated with his pants soaked. And the next week these guys suddenly don't want to pay their tributes. For some unknown reason, things seem to be going wrong for them. Only Sherlock Holmes could figure out who's behind all this. Look at those two walking through the city right now. They definitely couldn't have anything to do with all of this, right? Kyungwon is asking, is this really going to work? For sure, he replies. Those guys are going to pay the price for not paying the tribute. Not to mention that John Lee won't be happy they're walking around, exposing their weaknesses. Tae-san says, don't worry, their finances are completely frozen, and they won't have time to care about us. Kyungwon insists, it's madness. If we get attacked by the warrior groups, we'll probably lose, even with the tips. Tae-san says, that's exactly why we're going to meet some people who can handle those guys. He looks to the side. Our boy is already walking into Donga's bodyguard agency. The poor guy is confused, but it's pretty obvious he's probably going to hire some bodyguards. That's what you can do in a place like this. As soon as he goes up the stairs, a guy asks, why are you here? Our boy replies, I'm here to see the owner. The soldier tries to say, not just anyone can meet the owner. Tae-san asks, are you saying I'm just anyone? He just walked right in, man. And the guard clearly didn't want to get involved. Smart move. He just stood there, watching them enter. Sometime later, in front of the door, the guy says, wait here. The boss is on his way. But to announce you, I need to know who's requesting the meeting. Tae-san tells him to wait. I haven't remembered everything yet. He leans against the wall while everyone watches patiently. The old man is starting to lose patience. But just when he's about to say something, our boy cuts in. Tell him I have something to deliver, called the Mystic Moon. The workers just standing there, with no clue what this lunatic is talking about. They're all just standing there when Kyungwon glances over and asks, what's this Mystic Moon business about? Suddenly, the door swings open and an old man shows up. The guy drops to his knees right away. I introduce myself as the owner of the shop and pay my respects. That Rasputin just smiles and walks ahead, while the assistant's standing there like, what the hell is going on? Why did this Mystic Moon thing get that old man so hyped up? Next scene, Tae-san is already in the chair, wanting to know, how many people can you mobilize? The old man replies, 6 main warriors and 60 bodyguards. Tae-san tells him, gather everyone, but keep the main ones separate. I need to talk to them first. The old man simply agrees. And there's our boy, passing on some information to the suckers. But Kyungwon has no idea what our guy's up to. Even though they're skilled bodyguards, they're far from being able to beat someone trained by the Jiangli clan. Still, there's our guy explaining everything. He's saying they're going to support the unorthodox faction. The masked guys say okay, and our guy says they'll now go with them. Kyungwon wants to know what they'll be helping with. But our guy says, no, they'll just go along, but the others are the ones who will fight. Even so, the friend says it'd be better if he helped, just so the guys don't lose. Tae-san laughs and asks if he'd win against the owner of that place. Kyungwon answers that the old man's kind of worn out. He says probably even if he were a master, he's at the same level as him. But he's sure he's more skilled than those master bodyguards. Tae-san, however, says he's seriously deluded and completely wrong. He's nowhere near strong enough to fight the master bodyguards. And beyond that, the boss of that place is way stronger than he imagined. He has to learn to respect things he can't see. Poor Kyungwon doesn't understand anything, right? But the truth is that Tae-san knows this because those guys are members of the sacred demon cult. In other words, this is the cult he trained those guys in. And it seems like he's been able to track down a few members thanks to W's investigation. It doesn't even matter if they don't know who he really is. If the Mystic Moon is mentioned, they're forced to submit. Wait, so if I show up saying, Mystic Moon 2, will they obey me? How does this even work? In other words, it explains that these guys are working at a security agency because they're actually way too powerful. This is just a way to hide their strength. Obviously, his friend wants to know when exactly he made all these connections, right? Tae-san replies that children can know everything in this world. But now it was time to go because he could finally train in a real fight. Obviously, once again, the poor guy is confused. Our boy had just said a minute ago that they wouldn't be joining a fight. But Tae-san says he would never say something like that. They're going to kill the leader of those guys. Back at the Blood Axe sect, the Jinli elder, Sungrak, is the one who arrived at their place. And Jaguar, the leader of the Blood Axe, is saying they're not going to put up with Zhang Lu giving orders anymore. Sungrak, though, asks if he's gone insane or actually thinks he can win. The chief starts yelling like a madman, saying he's not insane. Actually, what they've been trying to do is to stay sane. And he warns that they'd rather take a beating and crap their pants. Some loudmouth hears that and already suspects that whoever was behind what happened to Wong is also behind this. Since apparently, back when the guy stood out at the table, he didn't just pee himself. I thought he had puked, then I realized he had peed. Now we find out he crapped himself. So, the guy let everything out. Suddenly, the old man senses a strange energy, turns to the others, and tells them to handle the people inside and to keep one alive since he has a few questions to ask. He starts leaving the place, feeling something was off. He had taken part in countless battles, but he had never felt something like this. Every fiber of his body was screaming that he was in danger at that moment. Oh boy, look over there. Tae-san and the other one are in the tree. You really are in danger, man. That's when our boy says he really does have sharp senses. When the old man looks back, our boy had already dropped down and says that honestly, he does seem strong. Jean Lee is kind of a garbage clan. At least their elders maintain some standards. The elder then says he must be Tae-san and asks if he's the one behind all this. But our humble boy says there's no point in saying since his memory won't last much longer anyway. The old man says fine then. He really is bold for a pup. But as soon as he loses one or two limbs, he'll start talking. But Kyungwon steps forward and says the old man won't even get the chance to fight Tae-san. Looking at the boy, old man thinks he doesn't seem all that strong. Besides, there's no way that powerful energy came from the guy behind him. He thinks there must be someone else hiding around, besides just dealing with the two of them quickly. He draws his sword, saying this is going to be quick. Tae-san laughs and asks Kyungwon how long he thinks he'll last in the fight. The poor guy is shaking, hand on his sword, saying that this damned elder has a terrifying aura. He didn't expect him to be this strong, but at the very least, he's going to give it his all. Our boy says, this is a moment of luck. The fastest way to evolve is by fighting someone stronger than you. The old man is tired of the two of them chatting like he's some practice dummy and says he'll end this now. He steps in for a strike, saying this will be over in an instant, but Kyungwon blocks the first attack. The old man pulls back, surprised, and says he's not bad. Actually, he comes in again, and Kyungwon dodges again, but gets thrown back with his arms shaking. At least now he was more confident since he could see the path of the attacks. He charges again, and the two face off. The elder comes down for an overhead slash, telling him to understand that he's nothing more than a mere bodyguard. The guy blocks it again, but the sword now has a crack. Clearly, this couldn't last long at that pace, just from the force of the impacts. While the old man keeps delivering a barrier of strikes, he asks, Kyungwon, do you really think you have any chance? Kyungwon thinks, if I take even one of those hits in the wrong place, I'm going to be sliced in half. Suddenly, the old man starts gathering a sphere of energy in his hand. He slams it in his own chest, saying, I want to see if Kyungwon can survive this. The poor guy is sent flying and has to use his sword to stay upright. The old man is surprised. The bastard didn't fall completely. He's still on his knees. Once again, Kyungwon calms down. As terrifying as the guy is, he can still see the attacks. Tae-san praises him. Appreciate the results of all the training you've gone through. Sunrak is starting to get scared. He thinks, I don't remember anyone in that bastard's family being able to block one of my attacks like that. He says, I admit, for a bodyguard, Kyungwon is way too much skill. It's a waste for someone like him to be in a guild like that. The best path for you in this life would be to join the Jiangli clan. He throws a glance at Tae-san. Kyungwon, if you come to the Jiangli group, you'll learn real martial arts. You're way too talented to be cleaning up the messes of that kid. But Kyungwon just laughs and asks, what mess am I supposedly cleaning up for the boy? The abilities I've seen so far don't even come close to what Tae-san can do. He grabs his sword again and jumps in, saying, I want to see everything you've got. Sunrak replies, you'll stay an arrogant bastard till the end. The guy comes in with an overhead slash, but this time the old geezer dodged the sword and drove his own into Kyungwon's shoulder. Kyungwon staggered back and dropped to the ground, totally exhausted. His arm looked like it was almost disconnected. It was the one he uses to hold the sword. Even so, Sunrak is disappointed. I aim for the head, not the arm, but in the end, the bastard still managed to read my sword's path. The poor guy is suffering, and the old man says, it's time to finish this. But Kyungwon, fired up, says, I'm not going to let that happen. That's when Tae-san says, enough. Sunrak turns and says, I want to keep going, but Tae-san tells him, look at your arm. You won't even be able to hold a sword properly anymore, so you should give up. He gives him a little smile. You weren't so bad. He slowly walks closer. Watch carefully and don't miss a single detail. Kyungwon thinks, oh boy, this one thinks he's that guy from the arena fight, huh? Cocky. The old man says he heard Tae-san was on the verge of death. So, it's crazy for him to want a sword fight now. Tae-san replies, I don't need a sword to beat someone like you. The old man, clearly angered, retorts, the first thing I'm going to cut is your tongue. Just come already, Tae-san challenges. The old man is confused. Looking at the boy, he thinks, I can't see anything special about him. So, why is he so confident and cocky? He wonders, maybe he's hiding something. It might be a bluff. Surely, I'm just worrying for nothing. He launches his strike convinced there's no way this guy can stop this blow. He executes a wild inverted attack, tossing the sword up to come back down, and thinks this is a kill shot. Clearly, the kid was an idiot for thinking he could win without even using a sword. But Tae-san simply takes a tiny step to the side, smiling. The old man thinks, trying to understand, what did he get that close? Tae-san says, I told you I don't need a sword. He lands a clean strike on the old man, who immediately collapses. His vision blurs. Who the hell is this bastard? He wonders. Poor Kyungwon stands there, speechless. He reflects, I struggled like hell against that old man. I still couldn't understand how Tae-san won so easily. If I wanted revenge, I at least need to move the way he does. Back at the Yin clan mansion, Doobie examines Kyungwon, saying, you're in really bad shape. Kyungwon offers little response. The doctor warns, if it hadn't been for me, any other doctor would have cut the arm off, since restoring something like that would have been impossible. Kyungwon remains silent. Doobie brags, you better always remember how great it is to have an amazing doctor like me around. Kyungwon tilts his head. Thank you. The doctor replies, I like humans because they're animals that know how to recognize kindness. Seoyin says, we already thank you 19 times, so maybe that's enough. But the doctor insists, that's just to make sure you don't forget how kind I am in the future. The two of them thank him again. Doobie glances to the side, seeing Tae-san arrive. You showed up at the perfect time, he exclaims. Did you hear about the big offer I got? He was about to mention some herbs when Tae-san gives him a look. He immediately turns away, asking, why do you look so scary today? Tae-san tells him, leave if you want. Doobie is confused, wondering, where am I supposed to go? Tae-san clarifies, if you want to go with the Jiangli clan, then just go already. Doobie starts to say something about how our boy is the only one he wants to serve, but Tae-san just tells him to shut it. He warns him, either go join the Jiangli clan, or go deal with the mountain bandits. Kyungwon then explains that at least now, the Jiangli guys will be occupied for a while. But our boy says, unfortunately, that's not how it's going to be. Now that they're completely cornered, their only chance is to come at us with everything they've got. But that wasn't the most important part. These guys shouldn't even have the guts to act this boldly, which means someone is behind all this. And first, we need to figure out who's pulling Jiang Li's strings. He asks if Doobie found what he asked for. Doobie says yes. It took him 3 days and all his subordinates to find it. Tae-san smiles and says to hand it over already. He wants to know who's controlling Jiang Li in this era. Scene change. A woman walks through the corridor. Everyone bows to her. One of them announces that someone from the White Flower Courtesan house is there. The Jiang Li patriarch says to let her in immediately. As soon as he sees her, he's already trembling. She's there, stroking their furniture, saying she heard that one of the elders died last night. She wants to know if he was really killed by a merchant's son. Shin explains that there were extremely skilled people with that guy. But don't worry. Soon, I'll take care of it all. The woman says, no deal. The women of the White Flower Courtesan house are going to handle Tae-san themselves. The boss is a bit nervous, but she tells him not to worry. Very soon, he'll end up paying me a visit, since we're spreading a rumor to lure him in. He wants to know what rumor that is. She says, it's that we're allied with the Golden Celestial Alliance. Scene change. The next day, our boy is telling them not to follow if they're going to keep acting like this. Doobie asks if they should leave Kyungwon behind, but Kyungwon says, no way, I'm full of energy. Doobie says that at this rate, they're going to get caught before even accomplishing anything, so it'd be better to use poison. They ask what kind of poison. He says it's something that basically changes your facial expression, since it relaxes your face completely. The poor guy, in the middle of his explanation, is interrupted. Tae-san just tells them to hurry up. Doobie insists they should use the poison on Kyungwon. He thinks Kyungwon is drawing too much attention. Tae-san wonders if he's surrounding himself with decent people. Kyungwon is left standing there, looking dumbfounded. Sometime later, they arrive at the White Flower Courtesan house. Our boy has arrived in his natural habitat. Seoyin is devastated that he's returning to his old habits. Take a closer look, Doobie says. This isn't just any place. It's a courtesan house backed by the Golden Celestial Alliance. She finds it strange that they're getting involved in a place like this. Doobie explains, these people are constantly expanding their locations. They're gathering as much information as possible. You can tell just by looking at the soldiers outside. They look like regular people, but they're extremely skilled. Tae-san suddenly points out, the rumors about this place only started recently. It suggests they're trying to attract a specific person. Doobie agrees, it makes total sense. Seoyin asks, if they try to lure someone, maybe we shouldn't be going there. It could be a trap. The doctor asks, are you feeling sorry for Tae-san? Hell no, she replies. And so, the Fantastic Four enter the building. The first woman appears, welcoming them. The girls here were wondering when the Night King of Wuhan would finally visit them, she says. Doobie laughs and says, apparently, the rumor has been spreading a lot. He pushes the girl aside and tells her to bring the best they've got. Meanwhile, Tae-san is observing, the guards here aren't bad at all. They could go toe-to-toe with warriors from respected clans. If this alliance has warriors like this around, that clearly means there's an even bigger group behind all of this. What I want to figure out is what they're actually planning. At that moment, the woman from the house appears. Your room and companion are already prepared, she says. Doobie thought he was going to get out of it. Seoyin said he was staying there with them. He tried to say no, but she just ordered a guard to take him in. There he was, sitting on the bench, thinking, really? I'm going to have to stay in a place like this. Kyungwon, on the other hand, already knew what was coming. Seoyin asked what happened. You don't look too good, all twisted up. He replies, I'm fine. You don't need to worry. But the poison I took is wearing off, and it looks like it's causing some side effects. Strangely, from his perspective, he sees Seoyin asking if he wants to meet a fourth, too. He shouts back, telling her not to worry. He's fine. She seems confused by his reaction. But once again, from his POV, she says she's going to take a closer look. And the guy is already smacking his head into the wall. Seeing Doobie's little smirk, he's sure that bastard knew about the side effect. With his forehead bleeding, he says not to worry, it's all resolved. Suddenly, everyone almost draws their swords. Someone says that Master Tae-san doesn't seem to be around. It's the Jiang Li administrator, known as Mu Wang. And yep, along with him, obviously, comes a squad. Doobie asks if the Jiang Li warriors are allied with the people from this place. Mu Wang responds that it's a shame, but since he noticed that no one there could be allowed to leave alive, he gives the order to go after them. But the one who charges in first is Kyungwon, saying it's been hard to stay focused, so a fight would be good for distraction. The first two already take a hit and drop to the ground. Seoyin asks why he's been trying so hard to hold back. The poor guy, a bit embarrassed, says he'll explain later. Then two come at her, but easily. She also takes them down with one hit to the neck each. While the fight is going on, our boy is sitting there, turned to the next victim. The poor girl tells him to come closer. That's going to be fun. but he replies that it sounded kind of noisy outside. She asks what he means by that. He says it was the sound of a fight going on. She pretended to be clueless and said maybe his hearing was off because she wasn't hearing anything. But the damn woman was thinking to herself that, of course, there was a fight going on. This was the beginning of his end today. She was feeling a bit sad, thinking it was a shame he was going to die like that without even realizing what was going on, since at least he was kind of cute. Then suddenly, Tae-san asks if she wants to have both her eyes ripped out. Did he look like some prey that got caught? The fool was all confused, wondering what he was talking about. But he answers that she must be thinking he showed up there without knowing anything. In the blink of an eye, he punches the wall and tells her to never look at him like that again. Meanwhile, Soon and Kyungwon are outside having a good time. Another one comes at him from behind, but he dodges. At the same time, Seoyeon shows up behind him to help, pushes him back into the fight, and slices through one more enemy. Then she comes from the side and cuts the shoulder of another guy. And a few moments later, everyone's lying on the floor. The two of them are exhausted, and that's when Mo Wong says they really are just a bunch of useless idiots. Man pulls out a little fruit peeling knife and says, "I'll have to handle this myself." Obviously, they're confused. Who pulls out a paring knife in a fight like this? But suddenly, the lunatic launches himself at them. They raise their swords, realizing he was way too fast. But the old man just ducked low and slipped past clean. I thought he was going to stab both of them right there, but actually, he threw out a flurry of attacks. The two managed to defend, but not perfectly. They were getting cut here, and they're across the face. The suckers had to retreat, and Kyungwon wondered if fighting a master was just too much for the two of them. Mu Wong says they're skilled, but they're dreaming if they think they can beat an elder. Even if they're talented, it would be disgraceful for the clan if he lost here. But right at that moment, boom, the wall behind them explodes. The gang already knows what's coming, right? Bodies drop to the ground, and Tae-san appears. Moon Wong recognizes him instantly and says, "I can't believe it." Last I heard, Tae-san was the name of a guy with a wrecked body. Looks like he'd been hiding his strength for a long time. The protagonist says, "I'd never do something like that. People just see what they're capable of seeing." The old man says, "All right then." He was going to spare the kid's life, but now he's changed his mind. Our boy grins. Mu Wong pulls out knives and gets ready. He throws 3 at Tae-san, who easily dodges them. The guy behind the door almost got hit, though. Tae-san says, "You're shaking way too much for someone talking about sparing lives." He starts walking toward him, saying, "I know you won't have the answers I want anyway. So, hey." He grabs the guy's little hat and says, "We'll just move on to the fun part." The old guy didn't even realize he'd gotten so close. And there goes Tae-san, absorbing all the man's energy. A little while later, Doobie shows up smiling, and Kyungwon celebrates that at least he didn't get attacked. He says, not to worry. When it comes to hiding well during fights, you can count on him. Then, Tae-san finishes up and lets go of the old man, and everyone leaves the courtesan house. Apparently, it's the first time Tae-san left one of these places before sunrise. Oh wait, scratch that. They're already beating up other guys and heading to a different area of the region. The lady is confused, wanting to know, who exactly are they looking for? Doobie explains it's obviously the people behind all of these incidents. Wow, look who's in the middle of the next room, the next target. Tae-san enters. She glances over and he immediately asks, "Are you the one?" You better not even think about claiming the courtesan house had nothing to do with it. She'd never lie like that. She values her life. The protagonist asked, "Why are you so calm if you value your life so much?" She said, "I'm confident, and I'm more useful alive than dead." He replied, "I want to know a few things." She agreed, "I'll tell you everything." He pressed, "Who's behind all of this?" "I don't want names from a celestial alliance. I want the identity of whoever is behind them." They stared at each other for a moment. She lowered her head. "I don't know the identities of the 3 people behind it. They move in very secretive ways and are always hidden. The only thing I can say is the name of the person who receives orders from them. Someone called Bangmuk." Doobie seemed startled by the name. Tae-san asked, "Is that guy famous?" Doobie explained, "Yes, he was one of the strongest sword masters, known as the Flame General. But as far as I know, he died a long time ago." Tae-san turned to the woman. "Apparently, he's dead." She insisted, "I'm sure it was Bangmuk." He challenged, "Do you have the guts to swear on your own soul?" She affirmed yes. She continued, "Fine, from now on, she'll take over that place. She's used every way to gather information about the Alliance, this Mook guy, and report it to him." She lowered her head. "Unfortunately, it'll be hard to get any more information." He countered, "Stop pretending. I know very well you were hired by the Golden Alliance since you belong to the Hao faction. Her face betrayed her as she got scared. He turned to leave. For someone from the Hao faction, you're terrible at lying. Doobie was surprised. Are we leaving already? Tae-san reassured him. I trust you'll do a great job. He paused midway. I know the location of the Shadow Step Manual. The woman gasped. That's a technique from the Hao clan, one that was lost decades ago. Only Brabin Ho, the reincarnated one, would know something like that. She didn't realize this, but simply said, I'll follow your orders sometime later on a mountain. It looked like it was the first time Tae-san went to a courtesan house and made it back before sunrise. A man was walking across a bridge. He runs into some man with yellow or red hair. The villain asked, What's the problem? He explained, the situation in Wuhan isn't looking good. The Jiang Li group and the White Flower Courtesan House were both defeated by an unknown person. The guy wants to know, how is it possible they don't have intel on something that big? Then, this kid, lying on a bench, says, that brother can't even control something that's simple. And the buff, dark-skinned guy says, we need to take this seriously. Wuhan is a crucial part of their plan. The standing brother agrees, saying, we waited hundreds of years and can't allow a failure like this. Very soon, the Unknown Ones will appear in the world. Honestly though, Unknown Ones is a pretty lame name. Guys, Gaul could have come up with something better. That's all for today. For the next part, make sure to subscribe my channel Fire Recap. And you don't forget to share and like the video. I am out.